Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio for another week of football action with your host, always, George, back on IO Radio Fridays at 5 p.m. And now, before we get on to talking about what's coming to today's show, introduce the co-host always, which is Dan. I've just introduced him. I've mucked that up already. We just want to say, everybody here at Pitchside Talk, it's deeply saddened to hear the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Our thoughts on our condolences all go out to the royal family and to everyone around the world at this moment of time who is mourning the loss of Her Majesty. She passed away on Thursday afternoon. Co-host, as always, our resident Ipswich Town fan. It is Dan. Dan, how are you doing, mate? Long time no see. I'm so sorry we haven't been on here for a long time, but life it gets in the way, which is quite annoying sometimes.
Yeah, we're at that age now, aren't we, where life gets in the way. But no, it's good to be back. Also, I'm sorry if you hear things in the background because there's some work going on outside, I think, tonight. So if you hear a bit of background noise.
Well, they're not building a football stadium out the back of yours, are they? Because if they are, we could perfectly record down there for the rest of this.
We could do, yeah. I don't think there'd be enough room really outside my house, but that would be good actually. I'd love that.
Oh, that would be quite nice. You could say I live a stone's throw from a football stadium, and they go, "No, you don't." I go, "No, seriously, I do."
Yeah.
Yes, that'd be absolutely fun when that happens. But before we move on, what is coming to today's show? I've been mentioning the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram is at Talk_Pitch, and YouTube Mixcolour both at Pitchside Talk. And if you've missed any of our previous shows or you want to listen back to them, do not worry, all up there on YouTube and Mixcloud. So, what is coming up in today's show? Well, we're going to be talking about Ipswich Town and all the news that has been happening around Ipswich Town, especially our last game away to Accrington Stanley in the away days, and also the things from the fan forum as well. Some interesting stuff that came up from the fan forum page that they did on Monday night, Dan? Was it Monday night or Tuesday? Yeah, Monday. I'll get my days all mucked up. I thought it was Tuesday for a start, but it's actually Monday.
Well, I hope it was Monday.
I'm pretty sure it was. I hope it was as well, because you're my reliable source for tonight. We'll be talking about the Premier League game week in number 6, and also as well at the end we'll do a football roundup. So when we come back, we'll be talking about Ipswich Town and how they got on in another away day to Accrington Stanley. Don't go anywhere.
We're up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio Fridays at 5 p.m. for another week of football action with your host, always George, joined by my co-host as well, Dan, for this week of Pitchside Talk. And now, before we move on talking about Ipswich Town, I better mention the social media. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram is at Talk_Pitch, and YouTube is both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to spec to me, I'm pretty sure, do not worry, we're there on YouTube and Mixcloud. Well, it is now time to talk about Ipswich Town this week. And last time we saw Ipswich Town play, they were held to a draw at Portman Road versus Barnsley, with Town leading the game twice, but then conceding twice in quick succession. But we had some dodgy refereeing, which denied Town all 3 points from Marcus Harness's goal, which was apparently a foul on the defender. But as Dan will tell you from his pretty perfect angle of it, it was neither of that, and it should have been a goal. Are you correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It should have been a goal. Absolutely. Worst decision I've ever seen.
Oof. I've seen some worse ones, but yes, absolutely horrible decision. But they looked to take their anger out on something else. So they went into the Papa John's Trophy later in the week against Northampton Town and beat them 6-0. So got to take their anger out somewhere. I'm so sorry, Northampton fans. You were absolutely battered by Town, which put them in a very good mood for a long trip up to Accrington Stanley as they continued to make their perfect start to the season on away games. They haven't lost an away game just yet. with actually, and they're playing Acton Stanley, who have only managed one win in their first 6 games of the League One season, really struggling in League One at the bottom end of the table, currently in 19th place and only ahead of the drop zone by 7 goals difference. Already we're talking about goal difference this early on in the season. Shows how tight League One is so far. But on the day, the substitute Connor Chaplin proved the difference for Town as he stepped off the bench to secure all 3 points thanks to his 2 goals. Technically his 2 goals. The last one, we're not too sure, but it's been accredited as him, which saw Town take all 3 points back to Suffolk and also as well the lead of League One, going back to top spot thanks to the goals. Only now 1 goal difference separates them and Portsmouth, both on 17 points, but Town have 10 goals to Portsmouth's 9. Dan, a very successful day out to Accrington, I think we have to say, but they had to rely on Connor Chaplin coming off the bench to get the winner. But to go somewhere like Accrington Stanley, a tough place where Town have struggled in the past. We know Town have struggled there. Accrington has been sort of a little bit of a tricky spot for them since coming down to League One. To get 3 points there, absolutely lovely.
Yeah. That's a massive 3 points. It really is. I mean, we know going up to Accrington, that's the team. That's the team we always struggle against because of the way they play. We, want to play it on the floor, and they don't want us to do that. So it's always a tough game against them. But I mean, we came out on top in the end, which is a fantastic result. I think overall it's quite an even game. I thought as we got up to about 70 minutes, it was going to be a 0-0 draw. It seemed like it was destined to be, but again, we've got the depth in our squad that we can bring on these type of players off the bench and they can get results for us, and that definitely showed. I mean, Connor Chaplin, what a start to the season he's having. I mean, he's had a fantastic start to the season, and he came off the bench and made the difference. I think Ladapo came off as well and put in another, a shift that was helped us to get those 3 points as well with his physicality. I was quite surprised to see Jackson starting actually start the game. I thought he would go over Ladapo for that physicality against Accrington, but yeah, I think it was pretty even up until 70 minutes, and then we made the substitutions and we're definitely on top. Don't listen to the Accrington manager who said that they shouldn't have lost the game. I feel like we definitely just and the owner as well. Yeah, oh God, don't get me started on their owner. But yeah, we definitely deserve to get all the 3 points in the end because we just have that that strength in depth off the bench. And I mean, other managers don't like it, do they? They really don't at the moment. They don't like us at the moment because we can bring on them fantastic players to change a game. So yeah, delighted for the 3 points to stay top as well. We weren't top until we scored that second. So thank you, Connor Chaplin / own goal / Wes Burns.
Yeah, slash anything really. The ball went the one thing is the ball went in the back of the net. We don't really care how it went in the back of the net. It went in the back of the net, but it's caused this massive controversy of who actually scored the goal. Nobody knows. Only Connor Chaplin and Wes Burns know over FaceTime, don't they, or something?
Yeah.
Something like that in an interview. Apparently, those two. Well, Chaplin had to FaceTime Burns or something.
Yeah, he did. I think it was an interview with Andy Warren. He had to call him to ask him if it touched him, but Wes Burns said it didn't. So,
well, he said it did, but then he sort of had to then go. There's something about a bet or something. I don't know what it was about. Some little secrets, but yeah, I wanted to just actually ask you about that Town lineup that he's on about. It's a different front three we've seen this season already. Harness, Jackson, and John Jules up top for Town. Like you said, you was quite surprised not to see Ladapo starting. He came on the 61st minute with Colin Chapman, but was that a little bit of a... Oh, no, that's bad. Was that a little bit of a tactical mistake by McKenna to play those two in this sort of game instead of having that sort of that strength and power up top from Ladapo instead of the fast, pacey striker of Ken Jackson?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I mean, I'm not really one to say anything about Kieran McKenna's tactical style. But I was surprised about it. I think he did say in his interview that Accrington didn't really play how that he thought they were going to. They kind of changed their system up a little bit, and obviously he started Jackson for that pace in behind to get, to capitalise on their slow defenders. But they set up differently, so we couldn't really get the best out of Jackson. I think he played, that one up top to start the game, and he went out wide as the game went on. He worked his socks off again like Jackson does, but yeah, we definitely looked better when Ladapo and Chaplin came on. There was a bit of that, that quality from Chaplin and that physicality from Ladapo really won us the game. So it was a little bit surprising, but I think Kieran McKenna wants to kind of have a look at the players he's got at his disposal. I think he likes Jackson, and I think he likes John Jules as well. I think John Jules is a classy player, and he started the last 3 games, I think, John Jules. So he's getting some game time as well. But I definitely was surprised with that front three. I definitely thought Ladapo was going to start, but I don't think we can complain too much because we won the game in the end. Jackson will get his chance in other games, and so will all these other players. We play so many different styles of teams in this league. It's crazy to think. How many different types of games we have in this league. Jackson's time will come, I'm sure. I don't really get the hate Jackson gets, to be honest. I think he's a decent player.
No, I don't get it either. It's
Yeah,
not very nice, but he does get it. But he does score. Well, does score sometimes at the end of the day, and he's a hard-working player. Just might not have that
absolutely.
strength and physicality as Ladapo does, but he is still quite a hard worker. Well, McKenna after the game was pretty much delighted in his post-match interview, saying it was a big 3 points they claimed at Accrington Stanley, saying it's not an easy place to come, and it's just not for Ipswich Town. Only one loss in their last 13 home games or something like that. You can understand why they're such a hard-working, aggressive team, and they make it very difficult. Sort of just going a little bit further on, saying we grew into the game. The start of the game wasn't easy tactically. It was a little bit different to what we were expecting, and it took us 15 to 20 minutes to get our possession game going and to find the spare man. And eventually, we started to connect through the pitch, and the goal. It felt like it was coming just before half time. Just going on saying how good they were later on in the games, and we deserved all 3 points. Dan, it was good to see, McKenna happy. That's what we want to see. We want to see him happy. But we have to say one thing, he maybe got a little bit wrong tactically, but Town grew into the game, which is good to see that they can grow into these sort of types of games. But something that played, I think, a lot into Town's hands is the 5 substitutions, because without those 5 subs, we probably wouldn't have seen people like maybe Jackson and Ladapo possibly coming on back-to-back straight away to make that instant change. Because to bring those sort of 2 players on the 60-minute means you only got 1 sub left. With Town now with 5, they can afford to throw 2 substitutions on there and still have 3 in hand. Do you think the 5 sub rule, it does play into Town's hand quite a lot with the squad depth, sorry. Where Acton, it's a bit more of a hindrance to them because they don't have that squad depth and don't have those quality players they can bring on. But for Town and for McKenna, it works a treat.
It does, yeah. I think that's one of the massive differences with this season for us is that 5 substitutions. There's not many teams in this league that can bring players like Chaplin, Ladapo, or Aluko when he's fit, and with Hadmi as well, who's just signed. All of these really good players who can come on to change games. Teams in this league don't have that. So for us to be able to make 5 substitutions, but it was a blessing in disguise when it started. But now we know how much of a effect it's having on this team, and it seems like everyone's on board and everyone wants to do well here. And we've got so many good players that can come on and change games, and it definitely showed that away at Accrington. So yeah, massive that we can do five substitutions. I know that other teams can do it as well, and teams like Derby and Peterborough and Portsmouth, it's gonna be in their favour as well. Of course, they have quality on the bench too, so we're gonna have to be wary of that when we play them. But teams like Accrington and Burton and all those teams, that's what their managers come away and say, isn't it? That we just have that strength on the bench that we can change a game, and they don't like it, and that's a good thing to have. That the managers and opposition players are worried to play against us because they know that they're going to be on the back end of they're going to be working hard for 490 against our attackers because we're relentless at the moment, aren't we?
Yes, we are absolutely relentless, which is what we love to see, and that's what McKenna wanted actually. Because when they did all the pre-season talk, you wanted this athletic squad, front-footed squad, hungry players, and it seems like we've got that, and it's working an absolute treat, which is it's really nice to say. I think before we move on to anything else, that's actually really quite nice to say. We actually have a hungry squad that's athletic, playing for the badge. That's something I don't think we've heard. I think I've never said it. Dan, you may have never said it, but it's the first time we've seen that in our lifetimes, and probably maybe the last time was trying to get promoted to the Premier League.
Yeah, it's been a long while since our fans have felt like that. There's such a togetherness at the club at the moment. It's a fantastic place to be, and it just does feel different this year, doesn't it? I know we keep saying it, but it really does. We were top of the league in our first League One season. We were probably 7-8 points clear at one point at the top, and it just didn't feel like we could sustain it. But now it really does feel like we're going somewhere this season, and yeah. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but we're looking good for promotion this year. I really can see us doing it. I actually can.
That's what we like to hear. Well, we better talk about one player, the man who made the difference on the day, who came on in the 61st minute. I think he was pretty annoyed not to start. Apparently, he said to McKenna, "I'm fit. Have me on, start me from the game. You know what I could do." But McKenna said, "No, I'm going to keep you on the bench. You're my impact substitution when I need you." And that was Connor Chaplin. Dan, when he came on, he absolutely changed the game. And it's the threat we had with him on was really just brilliant to see. He scored from the corner. He scored that one, which he said it's his goal. Nobody knows, but it went in the back of the net. He's now got the goal. And he's now, well, funny enough, who needs a 20-goal season striker when you've got him at the moment, top of League One stats with 5 goals. But it's good to see now finally he's working out, because he came in last season. He was part of the demolition, bring everybody in. I've worked with Paul Cook before. He'll be brilliant under Paul Cook. But in his first, how many games to play now? 7 in League One?
Yeah.
In his first 7 in League One last season, he didn't score a goal. He only played 2 games in that first 7. It took him until game week number 9 against Sheffield Wednesday to score. It's crazy. And last season he had 39 appearances, 9 goals, 3 assists. In his first 7, 4 goals and 2 assists in his first 7. He's going to be smashing his own stats left, right, and centre, and proving what a player he is for Town, and he can't be dropped.
Yeah, exactly right. He's a key player for us. I thought he was last season, and he, as you say, he didn't really play at the start of last season, which was disappointing because I thought when we signed him from Barnsley, who had just finished the playoffs that year, and he was one of their best players for Barnsley, who just finished in the playoffs. So I couldn't believe we got him to start with. But he's magnificent. You can. When he starts, you can notice how we play through him, and when he comes on after however many minutes in the second half, he changes the game every time, and he's just fantastic. I love him at this club, and he seems to love it here as well. He's got that personality where he seems like he's passionate about the club and wants to be here. He's of course the ambassador for the ITFC Foundation, which is
Mm.
fantastic as well. So yeah, he's just an all-round great person as well, I think. So yeah, I'm glad that he's here, and long may his goal scoring continue, because as you said, who needs a 20 goal a season striker when you've got players like Chaplin and Harness as well, to be fair, who are scoring goals behind the striker. Maybe that's just how, that's McKenna's way of playing, to make the number 10 score the goals, and it's working so far because Chaplin has got off to a fantastic start.
Yes, he has got off to a brilliant start, and that is all for your town roundup of the game against Accrington Stanley. And as we still have a little bit of time to talk about Ipswich Town, we're going to talk about that fan forum, which actually did happen on Monday. We can confirm it happened on Monday. Confusion between Monday and Tuesday. Both days are blurred into one for me at the moment. I'm so sorry, but it happened on Monday, and there's quite a lot of talking points in the fan forum. We had, two of Town's board members there, Mike O'Leary, Mark Ashton, and then we had a new person there. Who's that? As the development
Oh
bloke.
no! Yeah, I'm not going to remember his name now.
It was. I want to say it's Paul Scott, but don't quote me on that.
Yes, I think you're right. Actually,
am I
yeah.
right?
I think that was his name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
Oh
was.
yes.
But
Look
yeah.
at me go. Sign me up. I know who he is. And also Kieran McKenna as well. They were there talking all the stuff, asking fan questions for about an hour and a half, an hour, something like that. We're not really too sure. I can't remember the time frames. But one big news they actually did announce from that was another packed out PR was coming back. The very successful campaign, which was ran over the Christmas period in 2021 for the 3 games of Sunderland, Wickham, and Lincoln City, which was supposed to be played in December, but was actually played in March.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes, do you remember that? That was
that was
one of
when
the
the
games
squad
that
had
moved.
COVID, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, rumoredly had COVID. We don't
Rumoredly,
really,
yeah.
we will never know. Apparently, they were partying, but we don't want to get into that. That's a bit too much politics for this show. But it is back for the 3 games we have in October. The 3 home games we have, which are Portsmouth, Lincoln again, ironically, and the Friday night game, which is on Sky Sports, Derby County. But Dan, it's good to see PR Portman Road back again, because we know last season there was an absolute success. I think was it the Sunderland game? They nearly had 30. They just had over 29,000 fans there for the game against Sunderland, and I think there was similar numbers for Wickham and Lincoln. I think it was a little bit of a drop off because it was moved on to a midweek game, but still very good numbers for a midweek game. But to see it back now for these 3 games, and it's ironic that it's these 3, because Portsmouth and Derby are going to be massive, because they're massive games, because Portsmouth are currently second in the league, and we know that Portsmouth are one of Town's biggest sort of rivals at the moment in the league, and Portsmouth don't like us and we don't like them for some weird reason. We're not really well, we're not close in distance anyway. And because Derby County are coming to Town, a team that is absolutely massive, it's on TV. This is these 3 games. I know. Town don't do very well on TV and with massive crowds, but these 3 games here are gonna be the best 3 to go to this season, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to be huge. I mean, you'd pick out the Pompey and Derby games, of course, but they're all going to be huge. The attendance is going to go through the roof, especially for that Derby game. I can see completely sold out for that Derby game. It's because they'll bring 2,000 up down here, or whatever. So yeah, it's going to be great, and I'm glad that they're doing this again. It was such a good idea last season for them to do that around Christmas time, and for it to happen again, with the way life is at the moment. I won't get into that, but to get cheap tickets for big games is fantastic to see. I think the whole fans forum in general was really good. Again, I came away from it like I have with the others, just excited for the future of this club. I mean, Mike O'Leary and Mark Ashton, they speak so well of wanting to get this club back to where it belongs, and of course, the new guy, I can't remember the name of, what was his name? Paul Scott. Sorry if you're listening. But he kind of came on and sounded great and said, if you've got any concerns about the football club, just email. So it's really good to see that the club want to engage with the fans as well. We didn't really hear anything about that from our previous owner. So yeah, really good. I think one of the best parts of it was when McKenna said that he wanted to be the manager to take this football club back to where it belongs, and he got a massive round of applause. I thought that was brilliant stuff. But yeah, I mean the pack out Portman Road stuff. It's going to be a massive 3 games, and I hope we can get the results. I know it's on TV. We have that so-called curse of TV games, but still feels different this year, and we can win any game in this league with the team we've got. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It's going to be some really good atmosphere for these games, and again from the fans forum. I mean, so many things to look forward to at this club. It really is.
Yes, there's so many things to look forward to. And before we move on doing the Ipswich Town preview for the game this Saturday against Cambridge United, we must talk about the very sad news of former Ipswich Town striker Marcus Stewart has been diagnosed with motor neurons disease, which is absolutely horrible to hear. That the Town legend, 49, has been undergoing testing for the last 12 months, has now been found to have the condition, which is really sad to see, Dan, because it's horrible. There's no other words to describe it. It's just absolutely horrible news.
It is, yeah. Really horrible news to see that come out today. I wish him all the best. He was such a pivotal part of the Premier League team here in the early, what was it, early 2000s. He was, a fantastic goal scorer in that time, and I know he's gone on to coaching as well. So it's really, really sad news to see that, because it's just horrible, isn't it? So I hope everything's everything goes okay. I know it's a disease that it's a horrible one, isn't it? So I wish him all the best. I really do, and I'm sure everyone that echoes that as well. I mean, not just at Ipswich, at every club in the country. I've seen so many good messages for him from everyone in English football. So I hope it's fine.
Yeah, hope everything's fine, Marcus. We do wish you all the best. And now time is to do the Ipswich Town preview for this weekend against Cambridge United. So Ipswich Town, they are home after last week's win away to Accrington Stanley, which saw them go back top of the table ahead of Portsmouth by goal difference. So Cambridge, they are making the short trip down the A14, which they call the A14 derby, but it's not the A14 derby at all. It's not a derby at all, Cambridge. Okay, but that's just other stuff. But they have had a very successful start to the season, currently sitting in 5th place, 4 wins in their first 7 games, 2 wins in a row, and they are looking, tricky as ever. Dan, another tough but thrilling game in store. Ipswich Town to have over 25,000 fans there for Saturday, which is going to be absolutely brilliant to see. But Town, they are flying at the moment, especially at Portman Road, unbeaten at Portman Road. I know the last time they were at Portman Road in the league, it didn't go so well. They didn't get that 3 points, but they're playing a Cambridge side who have started well to the season and also have history of good success against Ipswich Town, and especially at Portman Road.
Yeah, they do. I mean, last season was the game where we all thought we would easily win it, but they came away with a win. So it's going to be a tough game because they've had a really, really good start in League One, and I think surprised quite a lot of people. And they got a decent young manager there as well, who's up and coming. So they're gonna be wanting to come here and spoil the party, I think. But we're more than up for the challenge at home. I think behind 25 plus. 25,000 plus is going to be an amazing atmosphere, and I'm confident going into every game now, it seems. So it'll be interesting to see who he starts in this game. I'd like to see a couple of the new signings get some minutes, but it's going to be a good one. But I think we'll get all 3 points. I'm going to go for a 1-0. It's going to be a tight one, but a 1-0 win.
Yep. So Dan is going for a 1-0 win. Ipswich Town versus Cambridge United this Saturday. Let us know what your score predictions are at Pitchside Talk on Twitter. And when we come back, then because that's all for Ipswich Town this week, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the Premier League game week number 6 and what happened in this game week of the Premier League. So don't go anywhere.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadio Fridays at 5 p.m. for another week of football action with your host, always George, joined by my co-host as well, Dan, for another week of football action here on Pitchside Talk. And now, before we move on to talk about the Premier League game week number 6, I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram is at Talk_Pitch, YouTube is both at Pitchside Talk. And if you missed anything from today's show, do not worry. You can listen back to us at 6 p.m. on the same day, 6 p.m. on YouTube and Mixcloud. If you missed anything from us talking about Ipswich Town, as we did earlier on. Now, the Premier League was back for game week number 6 after a very eventful game week number 5. Game week 6 had a lot to live up to, and did it? Well, it did really. If you want to talk about VAR, which we will actually talk about very shortly, but we'll just mention the results from game week number 6. So, starting off the games was the Merseyside derby, which ended 0-0 between Everton and Liverpool. Brentford hit 5 against Leeds in a 5-2 win. Chelsea won 2-1 over West Ham, the London rivals. Newcastle and Palace played out a goalless 0-0 draw. Bournemouth made a comeback against Nottingham Forest to win that 2-3 away at the City Ground. Spurs won 2-1 against Fulham. The Wolves got their first win of the season with a 1-0 win over Southampton. And Aston Villa earned a draw against Manchester City. Yes, that is correct. 1-1 between Villa and City. And then for Sunday, we saw Brighton hit 5 against Leicester in a 5-2 win. And then Manchester United won 3-1 against Arsenal. Now, Dan, before we move on talking about any of the games, there's been one big little thing that has been bugging everybody. 3 letters, VAR. This weekend, it was the talking point of nearly every single game. We saw in the Liverpool game a Van Dijk tackle, which was not looked at all by the VAR for a possible red at all. Van Dijk got a yellow card. West Ham had their equaliser denied against Chelsea because Mendy was apparently fouled by the boot of Jared Bowen. The boot really just was a light touch on the shoulder, which apparently was a foul. We saw VAR overturn a goal that Newcastle scored, which was an own goal by Tyree Mitchell, but Tyree Mitchell pushed Willock into his own player, which was overturned, and that finished a 0-0 draw. VAR didn't intervene as well when Philip Coutinho scored, which looked like the winner against Manchester City, but the referee blew his whistle, and apparently Coutinho was actually onside. And I'm trying to think of any other VAR decision. No, there wasn't at all. But VAR, it absolutely needs overhauling here because it's in its 4th season and it's still getting decisions wrong. It's taking its time on decisions as well. It's fundamentally flawed because teams are training for a week, a hard week of training, and they're going to games. And like for West Ham, they're losing a point because of a VAR decision for minimal contact. Everything looks worse in slow motion, but there's nothing wrong with the goal. And the same for Newcastle. There's nothing wrong with the goal. There's nothing wrong with the situation, but decisions are getting overturned by people who are not at the game at Stockley Park.
Yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely shambolic, hasn't it? And you're right, it needs an overhaul. And I mean, when it first came in, we were told, weren't we, that it would get involved in clear and obvious errors by referees. But we don't have that. We have, the tightest offsides you ever see, fouls that aren't even fouls getting looked at, and then the ref has to go over to the monitor on the side, and he will always change his mind no matter what happens, even if he doesn't think it's a foul. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It really is. And I'm getting fed up with every week people talking about VAR and just saying how it's ruining games. Like, I understand why it's there. And it's pretty much everywhere in every top flight, um, league in the world really now, or in Europe at least. It's there, and I understand why it's there, but it needs to be dealt better. It really does. It needs to be dealt with better. And some of the decisions at the weekend. I mean, the West Ham one just made me furious. It was completely, utterly ridiculous how they can, people who aren't even at the game can look at that and say that that was a foul. It's just, it just ruins the game, doesn't it? And takes away that point that West Ham scored, as you say. So it needs an overhaul. It definitely does. And I mean, they said they were going to look into it. I don't know if anything's going to change. There hasn't really been much news about that. But yeah, I hope it changes soon because it's taking the love out of football, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's quite horrible watching football games now, I think, at the moment, because the referee, if it's like a penalty or something, let's say it's like minimal contact penalty, not really a penalty, but as soon as the ref runs over to look at his monitor, you know what he's going to give.
Yeah. There's no point in him doing that, is there? Because it will be overturned, or whatever decision that he made.
Yeah, it's like going back to when VAR was first introduced, and they never looked at the monitors, and they basically listened to the person in their ear, telling them what to do. It's like that, but they go and look at the monitor. But I just don't think they make their own decision. They seem to be just. If I get into a rant about VAR, it would be awful. But as I need to say this, and I will say this, I have been a backer of VAR. I think we need it in football. It does get things right. I know you're going to think that's really bad. It does get things right. We need the right decisions. But this VAR we have in the Premier League needs to be scrapped, and a new VAR system needs to come in where it's absolutely overhauled, and we don't have these sort of decisions. There you go. You've heard me say it. VAR is now going to get binned.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, we better now move on to the games. And the first one was the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool. And it was it was an eventful game for a 0-0 draw. If we have to say something, both goalkeepers, Pickford and Allison, being called into action. Everton actually scoring a goal, but VAR intervened to say Conor Cody was offside, which he was off by sort of. But he was offside, but it was a bit of a lengthy interval to get to that offside. Quite a lot of celebrations turned into absolutely nothing in the end for Everton. But was that a fair result, Dan? A 0-0 from this game?
I think so. Actually, yeah. Of course, it was entertaining, as you say. There was controversies, of course, but I watched the first half and I didn't really. It was quite a boring first half. It didn't really look like teams to score. I think the best chance was that Pickford save. Can't remember who was it, from Nunes, maybe.
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly.
Could be. I can't actually think what's wrong.
But yeah, Pickford made a really good save. But yeah, it wasn't really a great game. Of course, it was a derby, so there's that added pressure. Form doesn't really matter in these games, does it? But it just didn't really live up to the expectations for me. So yeah, maybe 0-0 was a right result. I think Liverpool will be the most disappointed out of the two sides to come away with a point. Maybe Everton because of that VAR decision, even though it was offside. But yeah, it just wasn't really the game I was expecting it to be, really, and 0-0 was probably a fair result in the end.
Yeah, it was like 0-0 was a fair result at the end. And the next game we will talk about, as all the write-ups we have to do here, I've done a nice little write-up, which Dan was actually quite appreciative of. The Foxes down the dumps and the Seagulls are flying. Yes, that's what I put here, because Brighton fought back from conceding the first minute to beat struggling Leicester in a 7-goal thriller as they scored five goals to Leicester's 2. Well, as we have put, the Seagulls are absolutely flying at the moment, Dan. They're flying in the Premier League table, currently 4th at this current moment of time. We will get into Brighton's other news a little bit later on, but they are absolutely flying at the moment in the Premier League. And this is just, it's sort of strange to see, because this style of football they play under Graham Potter is brilliant. And it seems teams absolutely struggling to cope with the way Brighton play.
Yeah, they are struggling to cope, and I think after they lost Cucurella and they lost Malpai as well,
And
I'm
Basuma.
still and Basuma. Yeah, of course, I forgot about Basuma, and they're still putting in fantastic performances and getting really good results, and they sit in a fantastic position in the Premier League at the moment. Of course, the news may affect that, but it's brilliant. I think their fans are absolutely loving the style of play, and as you say, teams can't answer to it. And I know Leicester have had a pretty dreadful start to the season, but they've still got some decent players, and they just couldn't handle that Brighton side. They're looking really, really good. Hopefully, they can continue that. And they had a good season last year, didn't they? I can't remember. Did they finish in the top 10 last year? I can't remember, to
Yes,
be
they
honest.
did.
Yeah. So hopefully they can one up that. I'm sure they'll be looking at finishing maybe in a European spot this year. And let's see if they can do that. But of course, we know their manager isn't there anymore, which we'll get into.
Yes, we will get into, but we just need to
Spoilers.
mention about before we mention about that news, we must mention about Leicester. The Foxes absolutely down the dumps. You know, the Seagulls are fine, but they are down the dumps, bottom of the Premier League table for Brendan Rodgers' side. A very abysmal transfer window, no signings, only two came in, and they lost Wesley Fofana to Chelsea in quite a highly publicized transfer saga. But it feel like the fairy tale that Brendan Rodgers came in and they won the FA Cup, they won the Community Shield, they nearly got into the Champions League twice under him. Does it feel that it's coming to an end, really, for him, his time at Leicester? Because if he's going to pull this around with the squad that he's got, which has not been invested in at all in the summer, it's going to be a massive task, which could be the biggest moment of his managerial career.
Yeah, it's going to take a massive turnaround. It really is. They've had a really, really dreadful start. And as you say, it's just they've had a really, really dreadful transfer window. And with teams around them improving, what do you expect really if you're not improving yourselves? So it's really disappointing. Of course, they have the players that can get out of the situation, but it does feel like Brendan Rodgers' time is kind of coming to a close. I think he's done a good job there. I think, of course, as you say, the fairy tale, I guess that he's come in and won the FA Cup and stuff like that. He's done a fantastic job to get where they are, but maybe just that the highs are coming down now. It's unfortunate to see, but yeah, I mean, if this carries on any longer, he's going to be gone, and I think they need to get out of this quite quickly. Otherwise, Brendan Rodgers is gonna feel disappointed, leaving on such a sour note, really being bottom of the league. So I think overall he's done a decent job at Leicester, but you can't stay at the bottom of the league at a club like Leicester for long without reaping the consequences, really, can you?
No, you can't at all. And well, we better get into the other actually Premier League news, which is actually surrounding Chelsea. Chelsea have sacked their manager Thomas Tuchel after after a poor start to the season they have put it down to, which has seen Chelsea sit down in 8th place off the top of my head. Let me just quickly check because I think it's 8th place. I should know this stuff before I talk about it. It shows how bad I've done research. No, sorry, they're sitting in 6th place in the Premier League. Sorry, Brentford are in 8th. Sorry, Brentford. And sitting in 6th place. But they have had a poor start to the season, losing to Southampton, losing to Leeds, and also they lost to Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League, which was the final straw. And Thomas Tuchel was sacked as a Chelsea manager. Dan, we must talk about Thomas Tuchel first before we talk about his replacement, which everybody knows who it is. But it's been an interesting time for Thomas Tuchel because the first 50 games, he won 32 of them, 11 draws, seven wins, 24 goals conceded, 81 scored. But in the last 50, 28 wins, 13 draws, 9 losses, 87 scored, but 53 conceded. And he's had a transfer window with the new owners. He's brought the players in he wanted to. It's not been the start of the season. We've seen him criticise a lot about the players saying they've been too soft. not not demanding enough, not enough hunger, and that's been enough for the owners to call time on him already, which is quite a shame because he's the man who brought the Champions League back to Stamford Bridge. He won them the first ever Super Cup, the first ever Club World Cup as well. He's got them to two finals last season. They may have lost both of them, but he got them to two finals. He's got them to Champions League consistent finishes. He's a very good manager. Why are they sacking him?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I was absolutely shocked when I saw that. I wasn't expecting it. I know they have had a disappointing start, but he's a fantastic manager, and you could just see with the reaction from the Chelsea fans. I mean, they were not happy with the news. They were sad to see him go, and it just begs the question: why back your manager so much in the summer to bring in these players? I know there's been comments about them not being and them being soft, as you say, but to bring in them players and then sack him after a few games is crazy. I was really surprised by that, and I don't think it was the right decision. But let's see how Potter can do there. It's going to be really interesting in it to see how he manages that group of players.
Yeah, and that is the man who has now replaced Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea,
Sorry.
Graham Potter from Brighton. No, it's absolutely fine. Signing a 5-year deal in the process. The 47-year-old is extremely proud and excited to represent Chelsea Football Club. What do you make to this, Dan? Graham Potter going to Chelsea? Because to me, this feels like it's a massive risk from both sides. Chelsea, with owners who have never owned a football club before, going for a manager who is so in form at the moment right now. Graham Potter is probably one of the most highly sought managers out there, but he hasn't won anything. He hasn't won a trophy yet, which is the one problem for him. But for Potter, it's a massive risk for him because he's leaving Brighton somewhere where he's well established. He's had a good start to the season. We never know now what he's going to achieve at Brighton side in his first season there. But is it a risk to him because he now knows he ain't going to get the time he needs? And we know that Graham Potter likes a little bit of time to build a squad. We've seen what happens when he gets time. He builds a very good squad. Is he going to get that at Chelsea? Because Chelsea are going to want instant success from the first game, aren't they?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's why they sacked Tuchel, isn't it? So it's a massive risk to bring him in, and of course, as you say, a massive risk from both sides. I think he's a fantastic manager, and he's going on to big things. And I think if Gareth Southgate got the sack, he'd be the first name for the England job if he didn't go to Chelsea. So he's a really good manager, and I really like him. But is Chelsea the right job for him? I mean, as you say, the owners, if things aren't going right the way they want to, if they're not winning games consistently, he's not going to get very long. And how's he going to deal with the players he's got at his disposal? I mean, it's a big difference. I know Brighton have had a fantastic start and are sitting above Chelsea in the league, but you're now going to managing players like Sterling and Aubameyang. It'll be really interesting to see how he does that. But I've got faith that he can succeed at Chelsea. He's managed to get Brighton to where they are in the Premier League, and he's a really good coach, I think. So let's see how he does. I think I'm a bit on the fence with the appointment. I think there's good sides to it and risky sides to it, but overall, I think he's a good manager, and hopefully he does well there.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see how well he gets on at Chelsea. And Dan, that is it for the show. That's it for the show this week. I want to thank you very much for joining me as always. It's kind of a bit of a sad show, really, because we haven't said about it, but it's going to be our last show on IO Radio. Unfortunately, the radio station is going to be closing down, which is very sad to see. And we want to take the moment here on Pitch Talk for thank you very much to IO Radio for giving us our first ever airing.
Yeah, thank you.
On radio, yeah. I want to say thank you very much to everybody at IO, and we hope you'll come back in a new form, a better form, and we'll be there when the time is ready, and when you want us back, we'll be there. We've got you on speed dial. Speed dial. We're like football managers. We're on speed dial. Big Sam right here. But yeah, well, thank you very much for having us on. But yeah, that is all for the show. Dan, I want to thank you very much for joining me, as always, one last time
No
on
worries.
our radio. But we will still be continuing. Do not worry, the show will still be going on. We'll be uploading it on YouTube, and Mixcloud as well, so you'll still be able to listen to us on YouTube and Mixcloud, just on a different format this time. But Dan, I guess you're going to be joining me as always next week.
Yes, of course, I'll be there. It's a Ipswich home double header. So looking forward to talking about that.
Double header at home.
Yeah.
And I'm only going to one of them.
No.
I want to go to Bristol Rovers, but unfortunately, I can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's a bit hard to do that. But yeah, want to very much listen to us this week. Make sure to follow us on our social media. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram is at Talk_Pitch, YouTube Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you missed anything from today's show, do not worry, it'll be up on YouTube Mixcloud very shortly. So yeah, I've been George as always. He has been Dan. We'll see you next week, and ciao.
Bye.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.